So if we take a look at the business end here, you'll see they're quite different. G'day everyone, welcome to another tool review. This week we are looking at multi-tools again, and I've got the two Makitas here, the LXT and the XGT. Pretty similar units, and if you haven't already seen my video on the XGT versus the LXT, up here in the top corner I will put a link and down in the description. But today we are putting the Makita up against the OG, the Fein. Now Fein invented multi-tools way back in 1967, I think it was. If that's not the correct year, correct me down below. Oscillating multi-tools, they were originally designed by Fein to cut through plastic casts. You know, you've got a broken leg and you've got to get a cast off. You don't want to end up sawing somebody's leg off when you try to get the cast off, so they wanted something gentle that just vibrate, cut, so that it was less likely to take your leg off when they're taking your cast off. So that's what the original MultiMaster, or the original oscillating multi-tool was. Then they invented this, the MultiMaster, not this one obviously. This one is a modern version. It has a battery rather than a cord. Of course the original ones back in the day would have been corded, but this is one of the newest ones, the MultiMaster 700. It is an amp share tool. Now, what's amp share? Well, this is an amp share battery, and you might notice that it looks very similar to, Bosch. So Bosch batteries, amp share battery, same battery. So if you've already got Bosch batteries and they've got the standard slide-on connection on the top here, it's been around for a long time now, then all these old batteries will work on this MultiMaster. Now with the battery on, as you can see, it does stand up, but without the battery it doesn't. Let's just check if it stands up on this smaller battery. Yep, but it is only just. Makita ones, as you can see, stand up much easier, but you'll also notice they are a fair bit taller. So, three of them lined up there with equivalent batteries. You can see the MultiMaster is significantly smaller. Not only is it shorter, when we turn it this way, you will see it is significantly narrower. So one of the biggest complaints about the Makita versions is that the head is too big to get into tight spaces. You know, it's quite a large multi-tool. Whereas this, as you can see, is a lot slimmer at the cutting end of things. But it's quite fat in the handle department. It's, I mean, it's a lot nicer than the other Bosch ones, which are square, for instance, that use these Bosch batteries. But it's quite chunky. As you can see, my hand doesn't get all the way around. Whereas with the Makitas, it's sort of just touching on the 18 volt, and the 40 volt is just fractionally bigger than the 18 volt. So comfort wise, I still find that this one is the nicest to hold in the hand, and this one is perhaps better balanced front to back with the battery on it, whereas this one is a bit more back heavy. Now all three of these are Starlock tools, and we'll get more into that shortly. But what about the other stats of these things? Well, they're all variable speed up to number 6, because why not 6? All three have a slide switch to turn them on and off in basically the same place. On their lower speed, all three of them are 10,000 oscillations per minute. These two going up to 20,000. This one only going up to 19,500. So presumably the Makita will cut so much faster. Looking at the weights, the 40 volt coming in at 2115-ish grams. The LXT just over 2,000 grams. And the Fein coming in at 1833. So the Fein is the lightest of the bunch. Let's now listen to what they sound like when you start them up. Have we got a soft start here on the 40 volt? 40 volts sounding the nicest there out of those two. Wow, that's much louder. You can hear it taking a bit longer to ramp up on the Fein. All three of them in their top speed there, number 6. So 40 volt was the quietest. Of course, once you stick a blade on it and you start cutting, well, all tools end up sounding pretty much the same once they're cutting. Or do they? We'll find that out very shortly. Let's now talk about the Starlock part of these tools and the way the blades go on, because that is another part of the Makita tools that people take issue with. So if we take a look at the business end here, you'll see they're quite different. Each one of them has an area for holding a Starlock blade around the outside, shaped to fit the contours of the Starlock blades. All three of these tools take Starlock, Starlock Plus and Starlock Max. Be careful when you're buying blades or when you're buying the tools, and make sure you get the one that you want, because a lot of them will only do Starlock and Starlock Plus, or only Starlock. Starlock blades have these holes in them, meaning they'll fit on standard sort of OIS multi-tools, but the Starlock Plus and Starlock Max don't have those holes and won't fit on OIS and non-Starlock multi-tools. If you're new to multi-tools and want to know more about that, I'm going to make a video about that and put it up in this top corner. If I've gotten around to it, it'll be up there and down in the description if you want to know more about the blades and the compatibility and how it all works. But let's put one of these blades on. If I want to put one on the Fein, I can just go like this, and it is on, secure, ready to go. Now, if I want to take it off, I go like this, falls off, and it's ready to go straight back on again. Nice and quick and simple. So we take that off now and put it on the Makita. As you'll see with the Makita, when we come to put the blade on, you can't just clip it straight on. It won't go on automatically. You need to flip it over. You need to open this lever, which will release the pin. Take the pin out, put the blade on, bung the pin back in, and flick the lever closed. Now you're ready to go. And of course, to take it off, reverse procedure, open, pull pin, drop that out, pin back in, closed. So it takes a few seconds longer than it does on the Fein. Not a big deal. Once you get used to it, it's pretty quick and easy to do, although you do run the risk of dropping this pin. If you happen to be up on a roof or some scaffolding or something and you drop that and it goes down between something or into some mud or something, that could be rather detrimental to your job getting completed on time. Is there anything else you want to know before we get stuck into using these tools? Well, the two Makitas are made in China. China and China there, and this one is made in Germany. Still, believe it or not. Okay, let's go do something with them. We'll use this one and just the 18 volt one, I think. I'm going to do that for two reasons. One, the 18 volt and the 40 volt one, basically the same. Check it out in that video, like I said, down there. So we'll get that out of the way and we'll just compare these two. The other reason I'm going to compare the two 18 volts is that so many people complain about batteries being compared, battery tools. You know, you can't compare a 36 volt tool to an 18 volt tool. Why not? Anyway, so we've got two 18 volt tools here. We've got two freshly charged 5 amp hour batteries. Let's just go do some tests. The thing I'm most interested in is vibration. Vibration to the end user, i.e. you and me. How bad is that? Because some of them are pretty horrible to use. The Makita is maybe the best one for vibration. Certainly the best one I've tried. And I've tried quite a few. Check out this video up here. When I did that video, everybody said, oh, you should have got the Fein. Well, I've got it now, okay? And we're going to see whether it is miles better than the Makita or just what the pros and cons of each tool are. As you can see, size and weight-wise, we've already got a couple of points there for the Fein MultiMaster. But how does it do with cutting and sanding and all the things you need to use it for? Now, I'm going to be using Fein branded blades for these tests. And when you buy them, you take a look here. They'll tell you which ones they are. We've got Starlock, if we're out of shot of the damn light here, and Starlock Plus, which is interesting that this one says Starlock Plus when the blade on the top visible is clearly a Starlock blade, but the other two blades in there are Starlock Plus. And then Starlock Max, you can barely see it written there underneath the edge of the blade. Look at the length of that one, considerably longer than, well, that's a Starlock Plus one, so that's the difference between a Plus and a Max when it comes to length. And when you look at the length of a standard Starlock versus the Max, it is significantly longer. Nice deep plunge cuts with that. You get to about 3.5 inches with one of those. Anyway, first up, I think we'll chuck a couple of fresh blades on these and we'll see how fast they can cut. We'll start with a speed test and that'll be a good vibration test hopefully as well. Got an offcut ply here. It's 18 millimeters thick, or about 3/4 of an inch, and it's 780 millimeters long, or that's between, what, 30.5 inches or something. And we're going to cut full length just to see how quick these things go and just see how they handle, see if there's any difference, and maybe I'll see if one of them's easier to follow a line with or not. So it seemed to me like the Makita was going a little bit quicker than the Fein, although I managed to do a much straighter cut with the Fein. Maybe that's because the Makita was going too quick and I was just sort of pushing it and it was getting a bit wobbly on it. Pushed them both pretty hard. Vibration wise, got a bit of tingling in my hand and arm after using the Fein, but I did do that second, so it may have been a cumulative effect with the Makita. So I'll keep an eye on that over the next few tests. Next up, let's do a plunge/stall test. For this test, we're going to use this 2-inch dressed bit of wood, so that turns out to be 45 millimeters, and we're going to see which one of these blades is going to pop out the bottom first, just letting the tools work under the weight of themselves, basically. That's what this is for. So what I'm going to do is take the tools, drop them in the top with them running, and see which one pops out the bottom first. 3, 2, 1. Perhaps wasn't the best test. They sort of both wanted to catch slightly on the batteries at the top. Let's see how they go now with the same bit of wood, with me pushing down on them, trying not to stall it, but trying to get the most out of the tool. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, Makita. Pretty quick. I don't know, seem pretty similar. For those last two tests, I didn't secure the board because I wanted to see if it would vibrate the boards, see how much of the vibration from the tool went into the workpiece. Both pretty similar. I'll clamp it down for the next test and we'll do a stall test. For this test, I'm basically going to push down as hard as I can and see if I can stall these things. Let's go. Well, as you can see, it stalled, but then as soon as you took the pressure off, it started up again. And it kept doing that, just stalling, starting, stalling, starting. See what the Makita does. So with the Makita, you can see it didn't stall as such, but it basically cuts the vibration down. It changes quite dramatically and basically doesn't cut. So you need to back it off, take it out of your cut, and then it comes right, and then away you go again. So kind of similar to what the Fein does in respect to you're not cutting, but the tool's not completely cutting out either. Now, when I did the test of this versus the 40 volt, the new TM001G, a lot of people said, hey, you didn't do a stall test to see if there's a power difference between them. So let's now just do the 40 volt. 40 volt in 3, 2, 1. So there you go. Does exactly the same thing as the 18 volt, does that weird secondary vibration thing. And yeah, exactly the same pretty much. So it's still seeming to me like the vibration on the Fein is not as nice as on the Makita. A lot more vibration going into your hand and wrist and arm on the Fein. But let's just do another vibration test here. So still on top speed 6. All of the tests have been done on the top speed in the video thus far. Let's flick it on with the blade on, see what happens. A little bit of movement there. So now the Makita. Top speed, number 6. As you can hear, much quieter. You can barely feel any vibration in this tool when it's not cutting. And she ain't moving. Much less vibration. Much more fine, tingly vibration through the Fein than you get with the Makita, which, like I say, you can barely even feel. Next up, the obligatory nail cutting sequence. And I'm going to try some of these El Cheapo new one blades. Basically, these are the same as just about any knockoff blade you get. You know, they just print on their own name or etch on their own name. Basically, they're all identical when you buy these cheap ones from Temu or AliExpress and all those things. So these are made for cutting metal and wood, supposedly. So we're going to chuck a fresh one of those on each tool and see how we go, because I'm kind of running out of new Fein blades and I want to use them for some other tests and for actually doing some damn work. So let's see if these are any good or whether they'll basically burn out on one nail. We're going to run the tools on their lowest speed setting for this test. So when I got this out to put it on, I noticed this big cross here in the center, and I thought, geez, there's not going to be much meat for the little tangs to grab onto on the Fein. If you take a look at one of these Fein blades, you'll see, let's get a better background, you'll see it's an even star all the way around, whereas this has this big ugly cross in it, which creates weak points. For instance, if you clamp onto there and there's going to be a bit of flex and vibration in this thing, and if you clamp it on straight, you're only just catching the edge of there and there when you're trying to put it on with these little clampy things. So this blade, possibly a bit better on the Makita, it'll hold it much more firmly, one would think. But that's not the biggest problem with this, because when I actually try to put it on the tool, you can't even get it on there. Now that kind of sounds like it's on there, but it's not clicked in properly. If you have a look on the side, it is sitting up well above where it should be. It's not seated correctly. So it's seated okay on that side, not this side, not the front. So let me just show you what it looks like compared to a decent blade. Fein on the right, knockoff on the left. If you take a look, there's far better definition on the Fein than the knockoff. This is punched to shit. It's just, this has got nice clear defined stars on it. This does not. It is junk, you know, you get what you pay for. Let's see if it'll fit on the Makita. We have a slightly better fit on the Makita, sitting a bit tighter. Like I say, this can pull it down a bit more evenly than the mechanism on the Fein, but it's still not perfect, and it's going to cause more vibration. It's going to potentially damage your tool and stuff the blade pretty quick as well. So before I even use these blades, they're fucking shit. Try some of the other ones, see if they're all the same. But this one looks like it's got a better, it's been punched nicer, pressed nicer. Let's see, yeah, that's a lot better. Perhaps not perfect, but at least it's even. Can't feel any movement in it, so that's good. What about one of these wood and plastic blades here? No, that looks pretty junky. I just don't even want to clip on. See, it's not clicking very nicely. And as I can see with that one, it's a little bit better than that first one I showed you, but still sitting out at the front. So the vibration level is going to be rat shit. Shall we try it anyway, the nail test, just to see how much it's going to murder the teeth on these things? See if I can give it a go. Okay, lowest speed on the Makita, 10,000 RPM. Let's go. Did the job. Surprisingly, teeth are pretty good. Who'd have thought? Let's see if we can get it to work on the Fein, seeing as it doesn't clip in too well. This is not seated properly at all. Can either get it in the front or the back. I decided it was slightly better to go in the front. Let's see if it works. Lower speed, setting 1, 10,000 RPM. Oh, sorry, OPM. The Makita seemed a bit nicer than the Fein there. The blade did better than I thought it would. Probably would have cut a bit better if it was seated properly and not on a weird angle. When it comes to sanding, I found the Fein was nicer when sanding. If you're using one of these little delta pads like this was easier to hold one-handed. Being that a little bit shorter, the weight's a little bit closer to your hands and it's not pulling down as much as the Makita felt like it was doing, and kind of felt like it was doing a better job to me. Also, with the Makita one, when you want to change the pad, change it out, if you're using this, you can just drop it on and off while you're using other blades. You don't have to remove the sandpaper. But with the Makita, because the pin's on the inside, you always have to take that off so you can get the pin out. Whereas with the Fein, you can leave it on there and clip it on like so. And when you want to take it off, you can just take it off. Sanding pad off, do a cut, then you want to sand the edges of it again, bung that back on, ready to go, and you can just keep popping it on and off. Whereas with this, every time to get that pin back out for your other blade, you're going to have to take the sandpaper off. Not a massive deal most of the time, depending on what you're doing. But just another little annoyance and just something that makes the Fein just a little bit nicer. Although I am a little bit worried about this area in here. As you can see, it's sort of a rubbery substance in there, that orange bit and these two little black pieces here. And as you can see, it's not even that nicely molded in there, or it's potentially damaged already. I'm just a bit worried that that'll get damaged and you end up flogging that out and your blades will get a bit wobbly on it and you won't be getting nice cuts anymore. You'll be losing your vibration a bit. If you've used one of these for a long period of time and had any problems with that, let me know down below. I've not long had this, so far it's okay, but it's potentially showing an issue there, but it's probably just the molding, I would say. It's one of those time will tell kind of things. But then again, the Makita does also have issues as well. I lent this one to my mother, and I don't know what she did to it, but when she must have clamped the pin in, she must have clamped it in with it not quite in, up there like that or something, because she managed to damage the end of this pin, and so it was catching and jamming in there, so I had to give it a bit of a sand up, and it seems to be fine now, but nothing's perfect, I suppose. Now, both of these come with optional accessories, of course, as well as, you know, what you see here. You can get a dust extraction for them, so they can be hooked up to a vac. Not all that great, to be honest, doing that with a multi-tool, I find. I mean, it's only really any good for one of these. You're cutting and you've got a long blade on it, then the dust extraction's not going to do anything pretty much. Now, the 18-volt Makita I'm using here is, of course, the DTM52. In the States, that's the XMT04. Now, if you're saying, hey, it's not the XMT04 because it's teal coloured and not black, yeah, in the States, they sell them as a black tool, black plastic instead of teal coloured plastic, and they market them, remember it's all marketing, as subcompact. It's exactly the same tool, okay? I get so many people that have arguments with me about this. Some reason Americans think they've got a different tool to everybody else. It's exactly the same tool, it's just a different colour for marketing to the American market because they love the term subcompact, which means nothing. And the Fein tool is the AMM 700 Max AS, the AS standing for amp share. Now that is the model number, I think, for everyone, the whole planet. Unlike Makita, I think this one is for everybody. This one I purchased from the US, so it's at least the US model number. I purchased it as a bare tool and it came with this. An L box, yet another Bosch design. So you use a Bosch battery with Starlock, which was invented by Bosch, in an L box from Bosch. Come on, Fein, put some work into it, man. everybody else is doing stuff for you. Anyway, I'm not a huge fan of these boxes, especially with these bits sticking up the side, because you can't put other things flat on top of them. It's not a great design, I find. But they clip in there. If you're not familiar with one, they have the clips there, which clip into this bit at the top here. It's a rather big box for such a small tool, and these are horrible. I mean, I haven't really used these much, but do you have problems with these? Anyone who uses these? Because these feel flimsy as anything. Open it up, so the tool goes in the back there. You've got space for a charger, blades, batteries, and this thing comes with it, which is a protector that you stick on the front if you're using really sharp blades and you want to protect yourself and not cut yourself. I'd love to know how many people ever use that. When I got it, it also came with this blade. I think it was this blade, so a Starlock Max blade. But there was lots of different configurations I found after I purchased this one, with all sorts of different blades. Up on the top of the box here, you can see a few different blade sets that are available. So there's different combinations with this, whether you get batteries, chargers, different blades. You can also get one with a smaller oscillating angle. So you can get one that's for like automotive and glaziers that I can't really remember, but I think it might have been 1.6, 1.7 oscillation each side, whereas this is 2 degrees each side. So this is a 4-degree arc, and the Makita in the video, both of these Makitas are 3.6 degree arcs. So in theory, the Fein should cut quicker because the blade is moving more. What it means is every time it's going 2 degrees that way, 2 degrees that way, 2 degrees that way from center, 4 degrees of swing, whereas the Makita is only doing 3.6, so it's doing 0.4 less, so it's not cutting as far each time. Now that can give you a nicer, smaller cut, especially if you're doing little narrow plunge cuts. You don't want the thing swinging too far, but 4 degrees is quite high for a multi-tool. The biggest one that I know of that I've used is the Milwaukee M18 has a 4.2 millimeter, I keep saying millimeter, 4.2 degree arc, and the DeWalt, for example, has a 3.2 degree arc. So DeWalt 3.2, Makita 3.6, this is 4, Milwaukee 4.2. The Milwaukee's cut quicker than everybody else, but not as nice on fine stuff because they're going so wild. They're quick at cutting through stuff, but not if you want to do nice, precise stuff. For that, you're better off with a smaller angle. So looking at the pros and cons of these two tools, this one's lighter than the Makita. The Makita has better vibration and has got a more comfortable grip, in my opinion, and is quieter. But when you buy a multi-tool, what are you buying it for? You're buying it to get into awkward spots, tight places that you can't get other saws into. And so you've got to hand that to the Fein. I mean, look at the difference. There's a massive difference here. If we look at the front with the widths here, the narrowest sort of point on the Fein is about 35 millimeters, basically the same width as the blade, whereas the Makita, you're jumping right out to 50 millimeters, 49 to 50 millimeters at its narrowest point there on the front, and then the Fein sort of goes down to 50 millimeters at the base of the black bit there, and out to about 62 at the widest point, whereas the Makita at its widest point, you're looking at, crikey, like 77 millimeters, sort of just over 3 inches wide at the widest point, whereas this one is only like 2.5. And also if we look at the front, this one is flush with the edge of where the blade clips in, and the Makita, the edge of the blade's there, you've got a lot more stuff going on. So you're going to be able to get into tighter spots with this, get into much narrower gaps between walls and what have you. So which one do I like the best? Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I've been using the Makita for a long time now, and I'm used to this design. I like it. I like just the comfort with the vibration and the sound and everything. It's just a nice tool to use. But maybe this one will become my go-to. Only time will tell. Often I get tools and I think, I'm not going to use that. And then over time, every now and again, I use it because it's better or it's closer or whatever. And over time, it becomes my favorite. And the one that I used to have as my favorite gets pushed aside. So maybe that'll happen here. I don't know. Like I say, time will tell. Let me know which one of them you prefer down in the comments and why. I mean, if you've got Makita batteries, obviously, you're most likely to get this. If you've got Bosch batteries, I wouldn't buy the Bosch, that's for sure. I would get the Fein because I don't like the Bosch multi-tools particularly. This is a superior multi-tool to the Bosch ones that I have tried. But if I didn't already have Bosch batteries, I wouldn't buy this over the Makita. You know, it's like It's one of those cases where I would buy the tool based on the battery probably. Having said that, let me know what you think down below of these two tools, which one you like, which one you don't like, and I will see you on another one soon. Cheers guys. There'll be more links down below to more multi-tool videos and other videos and Patreon and all sorts of stuff down there. Take a look down in the description if you want to know more information. See ya.